Hey folks, EvilDM here, and I'm back with another video. This time, this is a requested video by some people on our Discord server for Wild Games Productions, OSR Gaming. They wanted to know a little bit more about the equipment that I use and how I started with podcasting and things like that, as far as equipment-wise, not how I got in podcasting, because that's not that's not interesting. It really isn't. But anyway. So back when I did start podcasting back in, I think it was 2000, late 2006, early 2007, I had a background in radio in New York, so I already had some idea of how equipment works. But back then, equipment wasn't as cheap as it is right now. Things are very well priced at this point, and you can get things relatively, well, it's still, some things are a little bit pricey, but easy enough. Now, when I first started, I went and found, because we only had Skype, TeamSpeak, and there was another one. Google Hangouts at the time was kind of something. It really wasn't. I don't know what it was called. Maybe Google Call back then. Not positive. But we had these couple things, and it was really hard to record the other side of the conversation, because everything was USB, and when you record USB, you can't record both sides. And there was a few programs out there that you could buy and or get for free to record Skype conversations, but it always sounded really awful when you would get like half the conversation in the left speaker, one person here, and you get the other half of the conversation in the right speaker, so you would have people in mono. And then you would have to remix the entire thing from what is called stereo into mono, so everybody sounded like they were on the same channel, which was a real hassle and annoyance, and a lot of people just didn't even bother, and they just put the podcast up like that, which resulted in us getting a lot of really awful sounding podcasts out there. And everybody tried hard, and I'm not putting anybody down, but the podcast sounded weird because it was always, grainy, and if you popped out one ear, you'd only hear one side of the conversation, and nobody wants to hear that. And the people that took the time to actually put them in both channels, that degraded the sound a lot too, and it turned a lot of people off. And then we had people who just took basic recorders and just plopped them down on tables and talked like that, and those, no. Anybody that has an audio ear or an ear for sound will know that those do not sound all that great. They're tolerable for actual play podcasts back then, but now it is not. So after doing some searching and looking around, I did find at the time they had something called a Behringer Podcast Studio USB, and it was around like $120 if I remember correctly. It was like an all-in-one complete studio bundle interface, and it was a little audio board with a little microphone and an XLR cable and an adapter to hook up to your computer for USB. And what that adapter did, as you can see, is it loops from the computer to the board. So it basically took the sound from the computer, looped it through the board back into the computer, and you're able to record both sides of the conversation. Now, it sounded great, and I used it for quite some time. But as I got further into podcasting, I needed more. So if you're getting started looking for a podcast studio suite like such as this, and you can get it right now on Amazon for as low as $80 for a starter, I'd say it's perfect. I mean, put it on a card, whatever, get some money. It's rated 3 out of 5 stars at this point. Back then it was rated perfect. I don't know why it's rated so low at this point, because it actually is not a bad little system for someone who wants to do a one-on-one podcast. Like if I want to sit on Skype with 2 other people and have a conversation, it records flawlessly, unlike other things. So that's where you could start. From there, I went on and got a larger board it had about 8 channels on it. It was allowed for high density microphones or compression microphones or microphones such as this, which you see here. Hopefully that didn't hurt your ears or anything, but And it allows for that crisp, clean, really good, amazing sound like that. And it picks up just the smaller sounds and adds bass to it. And then we get the pop filter, what this is right here, to help prevent the sounds, things like that. And it feeds right into the board, which I could show you that. And it has a phantom supply for these such microphones to carry it. Now, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. I also did this because at the time I was having people over the house as a guest, and it has a bunch of other slots over here for other microphones that I could just hook up 1, 2, 3, and person could sit in the room with me and podcast. I still use that to this day. I think I got this in 2011, and it's still been kicking since then, and I don't see a need to get anything else. Just recently, in the past 2 years, I had looked into recording my group that we play D&D, Marvel, Ghostbusters, things like that. I looked into getting that recorded, and I wanted to record it so it was clear, it was crisp, people can hear it. I did not want a recorder on the table that sounds like crap. I can't stand that myself, so why would I produce something I can't stand listening to myself? So what I did look into was I looked at Guitar Center had a deal going on for a Behringer I think it was 404, I think it was at the time. Behringer Euphoria 40, UMC 404 HD, which is a small audio interface that has 4 inputs for microphones. Now, that's perfect if I want to do a small group or a podcast that's just right here in my home with my buddies or with, my wife or somebody. We could sit around, and that's perfect. And that one you could basically get for close to around the $100 mark, under the $100 mark, and it's beautiful. Hooks right up to a Mac, hooks right up to a PC with no problem, hooks up to laptops. I mean, I was using it on my 2006 MacBook. It still worked on that, no problem. With Macs, it just plugs in and you get to use it. You don't have to install drivers or anything like that. But as the group that I got was larger than this, I had to exchange this for a larger piece of software. And luckily, Guitar Center had a deal on the Euphoria UMC 1820, which basically gives you 18 in and out inputs for microphones, whether it's XRL or the 1/4 inch microphones. Generally, you want to use XLR because those are the best quality for microphones, and it gives you stereo quality sound. So I have that hooked up here at the house, as you can see, you've seen, for my actual play podcast, and I got a bunch of cheap microphones, just common everyday microphones on Amazon, and I think there was a package deal for 3 of them for about $45 back when I started looking into this stuff, and they're really good. I mean, they pick up. If you've heard any of them, you could tell how well it does. And I got some arms for really cheap, arms like you see here for this right here, these arms. I got some cheap ones for around the table. They ran for about $10. Some of the people in the group at the time had dropped in some donations to help get the equipment up and running because they liked the idea of being recorded. So they helped out. I hooked it up to an old Mac Mini I have, as you can see. And I put it together, and that's how I really produce all the podcasts that I do. So hopefully everybody gets an idea what it is. I mean, it's not that expensive to start up the podcast, especially in your home. I mean, if you want, you can record in Discord at this point without any of this equipment at all. I mean, it doesn't sound all that great and all the time, and there's obviously programs out there like Anchor and Pinecast and things like that allow you to record other people via the web, but it's not always the best quality with those softwares. I did find something that was on Discord. If you use Discord, it's called Craig Records. And basically, it's a little robot, or a little bot, I should say, not robot, it's like 100. A bot that joins the channel, and it records the conversation of everybody in that channel on separate tracks. Now, that's really cool, but I noticed with that, if there is an issue with the person's internet connection or a problem with their sound or quality, it cuts out a lot and the recording drops. So you could record, I don't know, say an hour conversation, and I could still hear you and you could hear me, but since the audio for Discord is compensating, the bot, I keep saying robot like I'm 100, the bot will drop the sound out completely. So that's the only thing you have to risk with doing with that. Is it worth it for a show? I don't think so. So for like $80, you can get this podcast studio and record endless amount of things and never have to worry, because I even still have the podcast studio. It's somewhere. I think I put it away. But yeah, it comes in a yellow box. It comes with all the software you need and the adapter, and it works perfectly. Well, hopefully you learned something today, and hopefully you've enjoyed this video of what equipment to use. Just as my advice, I mean, people probably have better advices out there, like getting headsets and things like that. I don't need a headset. I have this contraption set up here, and it works perfectly fine for what I need. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do. This was just my suggestion. Some people had asked, and hopefully they enjoyed this look at what my studios look like. All right? Leave a comment, leave a like, let me know what you think, and good night, everybody.